Hey learner, ready for a deep dive into a classic? We're tackling the 7 habits of highly effective people today. You sent over some seriously juicy excerpts. I gotta say I'm pumped for this one.
Ah,
Paradigms, inside-out approach. It's like a personal development buffet.
it's a pretty amazing text, that's for sure. What really gets me is how these habits all build on each other. They're not just a random list. It's a whole different way of thinking about how we show up.
For real. And speaking of different ways of thinking, that whole paradigm shift thing,
Hmm.
whoa, that excerpt with the picture, the one that could be an old woman
Mm.
or a young woman, depending on how you see it, my mind was blown.
It's such a powerful illustration.
Seriously. It's like the book is saying, before we even get to the habits, let's talk about how you're even seeing the world.
Right. And how two people can look at the same thing, come to totally different conclusions, and both be right. It's not about logic, it's about the way we see things, the assumptions we're working with, which the book calls paradigms.
And it's like, that's the foundation for everything else,
Yeah.
right? Recognizing that we all have these paradigms, these deeply ingrained ways of seeing things, which I guess leads us to that whole inside-out approach.
Exactly. It's like the book argues that if you're trying to change stuff on the outside, your circumstances, without looking at your inner world first, well, it's like building a house on sand.
Oof, yeah. Not a recipe for stability.
Nope. The book really hammers home that it's about character first. It's about being before doing. Remember that part about the author's son, where he was struggling, and the author realized it stemmed from his own paradigms as a parent, not just something wrong with his kid.
Oh, man, that was powerful. It really drives home the point that real change, lasting change, has to start from within. Okay, on a slightly lighter note, can we talk about the emotional bank account? Because I'll be honest, at first I was like, okay, a little cheesy, but then it totally clicked.
It's such a good metaphor, though.
It really is. So for anyone who hasn't read it, how would you sum up that idea?
Well, the idea is that building trust in relationships, it's like making deposits into a bank account. You build it up through kindness, honesty, keeping your promises. Those are the deposits. And then, there are going to be withdrawals, times when you mess up or there's negativity, broken promises, that kind of thing.
And just like a real bank account, having that reserve makes all the difference. It means you can handle the inevitable withdrawals without, like, going bankrupt,
Hmm.
relationship-wise.
Exactly. And just like we wouldn't expect our finances to like magically thrive without us paying attention.
Our relationships need some tending too, right?
Yeah.
Conscious effort.
Absolutely. And just like we budget our money, it's like we got to be mindful of how we're treating those
Right.
relationships, making sure we're investing in them.
Speaking of investing, that makes me think of habit 7, sharpening the saw. It's all about self-care, right? Like, we can't pour from an empty cup and all that.
Exactly. We can't be firing on all cylinders in our relationships or work, any of it, if we're running on fumes ourselves. It's about taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the whole package.
It's like the foundation for all the other habits, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. If you're not taking care of yourself, how can you possibly show up fully for anything else? It's about recognizing that your well-being is essential. It's not selfish. It's fundamental.
And one thing that really struck me about the book is how it doesn't just talk about this stuff in a vague, feel-good way. It gets really practical. Like, the author actually suggests setting aside at least an hour every day for renewal. He calls it the daily private victory.
It's such a powerful practice, that dedicated time to invest in yourself. It makes a world of difference because it's so easy to let those things slide when life gets busy.
Oh, tell me about it. Okay, so before we run out of time, there's one more concept I really wanted to dig into. Synergy, because it's not just about managing individual accounts, right? It's about how those accounts can work together.
It's next level collaboration. It's about moving past that whole compromise thing where everyone walks away with only part of what they wanted. Synergy is about finding those win-win solutions where everyone benefits. Remember that example in the book about the company struggling with low morale?
Yeah, where they shifted to a win-win approach and it ended up boosting performance across the board. It's like a real-world example of how synergy can lead to some amazing results.
It challenges the whole scarcity mindset, that idea that there's only so much to go around and someone always has to lose. Synergy says, no, we can create more. We can all win together.
Which I think takes us back to that whole inside-out approach, right? Because to really embrace synergy, to really believe in those win-win solutions, it starts with a certain mindset.
100%. It's about examining those deep-seated beliefs we have about competition and scarcity. The 7 habits are all interconnected like that, each one building on the last.
So we've talked about paradigms, the inside-out approach, emotional bank accounts, synergy. Are you sensing a theme here, learner?
It's all connected. And that's where habit 7 comes in, sharpening the saw. It's about recognizing that we can't pour from an empty cup.
We got to take care of ourselves first if we want to show up for anything else.
Yeah,
It makes you think about those 7 habits in a whole new light, doesn't it?
that's
At
right.
first glance, it seems kind of simple, like just a list of things to do.
I know, right? But when you actually start digging into it, like we've been doing with these excerpts, it's way deeper than that.
Way deeper. It's
Yeah.
not about checking boxes. It's about this like fundamental shift in how you see the world and how you show up in it.
Totally. It's a journey. It's not like you achieve effectiveness and you're done. I love how the author describes it as an upward spiral. You're always moving forward, but also circling back, deepening your understanding as you go.
That's a great way to put it. It's a process of constant growth. And the cool thing is, it's something anyone can do, no matter where you're starting from.
Right. No matter your background, your goals, these principles are universal. Anyone can use them to build a more fulfilling life.
It's about taking ownership, becoming more self-aware, making choices that line up with what you truly value, and building relationships based on trust, empathy, actually trying to get each other.
And then, taking all that and using it to contribute to something bigger than yourself, that's where it gets really powerful, I think.
For sure. The author talks about that, right? Becoming a transition person, breaking free from those negative cycles and creating a more positive legacy.
It's amazing when you think about it. We all have the power to choose our responses, rewrite those old scripts, and create something new for ourselves and for the people who come after us.
And it all starts with that first step, that decision to become more effective, more intentional, to actually live our values. So, learner, if this deep dive has piqued your interest, even a little,
Definitely check out the full book.
it is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, if you needed a reminder. Seriously, though, it's packed with even more amazing insights and practical strategies.
It's a journey worth taking, that's for sure.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the 7 habits. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.